Welcome to the Dave Palma Show, the podcast that revives, restores, and awakens your innermost capabilities.
You have the training and the talent to succeed, but do you have the guts to fail?
I love what I do. When you love what you do, you want to be the best at it.
Today is about the power of you. You will change the world.
Find your path to success through the journey of those who have succeeded. And now, your host, Dave Palma.
Hi, welcome back to the Dave Palma Show. And on this episode, I have the co-author of the book, The Empowered Job Search, Build a New Mindset and Get a Great Job in an Unpredictable World. Cathy Wasserman, welcome to the Dave Palma Show.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Oh, great to have you here as well. And there is so much going on with the pandemic, and obviously lots of people losing their jobs, lots of people quitting their jobs, lots of people now searching, lots of vacancies around certain jobs that obviously lost some people during this pandemic. So you're the one of the co-authors of the book, The Empowered Job Search. Could you tell me what are the 5 ways to emotionally prepare for your job search?
I would love to, mostly because emotionally preparing, I've seen over the last couple of decades, is one of the most powerful ways to be prepared for a job search. So the first step with that is really acknowledging how impacting your emotions can be on the search. A lot of times we want to deny that because being aware of our emotions means we have to do some work. So just acknowledging that you're feeling particular emotions, noticing them is a really good first step.
Right. And when you say emotions, it doesn't have to be bad emotions. It can be, confidence, or it could be fear, or it could be, feeling apathy because, you're frustrated, that kind of thing, because you're not getting the jobs or whatever. So does it deal with all kinds of emotions, or is it more negative ones?
It's the full range. You've hit the nail on the head. It's the positive emotions, which can come up. It's the negative emotions. It's neutral emotions. It's apathy, inertia. And what I've noticed is that often they come all at once, which is an emotional knot to untangle. It can be overwhelming because you may be feeling enthusiastic and excited about a certain possibility and then not hear back, and then feeling some despair and frustration. So being available for that full range and understanding that as humans, really in a given day and even hour and sometimes moment, we do have these sort of emotional tangles.
No, absolutely. Okay, well, we're referring back to the question, the 5 ways to emotionally prepare for the job search. Could you number them sort of 1 to 5 with maybe the 5 ways, and just for clarity for our listeners?
Absolutely.
Or anyone that will come across this podcast.
Yes, after you acknowledge your feeling, you want to sort of accept it. And that may seem obvious, but a lot of times when we notice we're having a feeling, we want to resist it. For example, if we're still angry about what happened at our last job, sometimes it feels overwhelming to actually deal with that. So after acknowledging, acceptance is really helpful, and getting support around that if you need it can be useful. It's not always easy to do that on your own.
So the first way, number 1 is to accept. Is acceptance. Is
just acknowledging first that you have emotions, and 2 is accepting. This is actually how I feel, even if I wish I didn't.
I know what you mean now. Okay. So number 2, what's the number 2 of?
And then and so then the next piece is actually working with the emotion. So let's say, for example, you are feeling really frustrated. Once you have acknowledged that feeling, you've accepted it, then it's like, well, what do you do with that? How do you use that as fuel? And the key to that is understanding that within our emotions, buried deep within, are our needs. And so unlocking the need inside of emotion is very powerful in expediting your job search. For example, If you're feeling frustrated or angry, you may have a need to be acknowledged or to be in a culture that feels like a better fit than the one that you came from. So once you know that need, you have the beginning of a roadmap to find an organization and a job that meets that need.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But many people have lost their jobs, or some people might have quit their jobs, or the circumstances changed, because of let's say that because of the COVID, it's kind of caused some disruption, and they've just kind of had a light bulb moment while they were in this lockdown, and gave them reflection to say, you know what, this is what I really want to do, or something like that. So, give me an example for that second way, how they can use that.
Yes, so you're exactly right. This is sort of a time period of major eurekas, in part due to COVID and just having the time to connect with self. And so one of the things to do is to really honor them, to take them as meaningful, that, you may have a eureka when you're in a job, and after reflection may decide not to leave that job, but maybe you will be able to tell your manager, you know what, I'd love to do X. Is there an opportunity for that? So seeing your insights and eurekas as really road signs to do more of what you would like and share what we call in the book your unique value, which is that unique fingerprint, really one-of-a-kind combination of experience, skills, ideas that you have to share with the world. And by the way, that the world needs. We're living in a time of great need and possible change in the world. So if you can use your eurekas to follow the thread of what they point to, you want to share even more deeply with the world, it's incredibly powerful.
Yeah, well, that sounds quite a good tool to use for number 2. So tell us way number 3 then. What would that be?
So once you have identified the need within your feeling, what you want to do is start to strategize. How can I meet that need? Perhaps you have a need to do more service in the world and you've been working in the corporate world. So you may be getting sort of a blueprint from your need to perhaps switch sectors or to switch position within a sector. So taking the insights from your feelings and needs and translating them into a concrete roadmap is the next step, and it's really critical. Without that, you may still stay in the same position you've been in. But when you translate them into action steps, then you have real forward momentum and you're on your way in your search.
Yeah. Well, that's also quite interesting to do. Give some practical examples of doing
Absolutely, I'd be happy to. So you might find out, for example, that one of your needs points to a desire to work more with people. Perhaps you've been on the sidelines a bit, you haven't been managing, and maybe you don't have experience in that. And you think, well, how could I get a job doing that? Well, here's some really great news, because we're living in the 21st century and there's great podcasts like yours, and there's all kinds of classes you can take online, even though we're still in COVID. It's very likely you can get a certificate or take a workshop to bolster your skills in management, or you can work with a coach like me. I'm a leadership coach, and get refined sense of how to support staff. Once you have that, then you sort of fold that into your resume and increase the clarity for any employers looking at your resume that you actually have the skills and experience to expand into an area that you may have felt, not as confident in.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, so way number 4, what would that entail?
Yeah, so way number 4 in some ways, I feel like maybe the hardest way, in that it's about maintaining the action steps. Once you take an action, the world sometimes can be indifferent to us. It can react not as we hoped. And what we talk about in the book is really how much power you have in the search. And a lot of your power, even though job search mostly is set up in a lopsided way, with employers holding more power, and most job seekers feel like they have to perform and convince employers, of their power and their worth. The reality is actually you have quite a bit of power, and much of that, aside from staying connected to your feelings and needs, is then continuing with strategies to meet those needs. So if you don't hear back from one job, as painful as that can be, especially if you were really excited about it, you want to keep going. And that's hard. So getting the support you need and recognizing that part of your power is being in community and getting that support to maintain those action steps. Most job searches take about 3 to 9 months. Not for the faint of heart. Even in a period of the great resignation, I coach people every day, and though there are more jobs available, it still can take a while.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's part of the process, the recruitment process, isn't it? And the job search process. It's just it never changes, irrespective. Obviously, the unemployment level is extremely high, as it was at the beginning of this pandemic when it first hit us. Obviously, there was a big slump in job, unemployment, because obviously there was no jobs. Everything shut down almost. Absolutely. But it's not the case. Obviously, that's just a kind of unique situation. But in general, the process is that there can be a wait because of the process of the recruiting, and also, people searching for the right jobs. It can take time as well, can't it?
Absolutely. I sometimes liken it to dating, right? It takes sort of a lot of attempts to find the right fit. And what is still sort of shocking to me in the 21st century is the recruitment process is not set up as an iterative, repetitive process where both the job seeker and the employer get to really know each other. Even if you're given 5 or 6 interviews, it's not the same as really working with people. So doing what you can in the search process to learn the details of how the organization functions. What is their culture really like? Not just like what they say. What is it you really want in terms of culture? What do you need in terms of a manager? What impacts do you want to share with this world that needs so much now? How can you put yourself to most use? It takes a lot of ongoing reflection and action.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know in my it's interesting you mentioned the analogy dating and marriage, you could say, because I remember I was sort of involved with the trade union. I did become a rep after a while, but it's more in a kind of, I work with the HR and just improve the culture and environment and things like that, all the kind of employment law stuff. But having said that, there was a couple of cases that I wanted to get right, and of course it can sometimes cause disruption, with trade union manager and HR or even the manager itself. I remember one time the manager in my early days in the fire service said, what you've done is, is a bit like a marriage, you've almost gone down a divorce route kind of thing. It's like, because it's law, you actually are entangled in the law in the same way as a marriage contract. They always compare a marriage contract with a business contract in a way. It's kind of like, there's a lot of laws now, but the dating process is different. That's like the job searching, like you say. So you're not ingrained in any kind of law, are you really? Depends on the contract as well. So.
That's exactly right. And it's amazing to me that still recruitment is run as if both the employer and the job seeker don't need to be equally sure of each other. And it's very hard for either to really know each other fully in a typical recruitment process, because relationships take time. There's even with social media and cell phones, there's no shortcut to the time it takes to get to know a potential employer, the other staff you're going to work with. I do think that we're on the verge of the whole recruitment process and job search radically changing, and I'm excited for it too, because I think it will serve both job seekers and employers much better. It's like when you find the right person after dating and you get married, it can be really
kind of thing.
Powerful.
Yeah. I mean, the process for me took about 6 months to become recruited as a firefighter, trained, obviously doing the training first. But It was pretty much like you have to go through medicals. The interview obviously is where you are going to try and get a little bit of a sample of getting to know the, and now they do psychometric tests, which I took when I was going for promotion, and there's all kinds of things going on, fitness tests obviously for that. So those processes took about 6 months. I don't know any countries that do it in less than that, I'm sure. And sometimes the recruitment don't come every year. I think in New York, for example, it's every 4 years as part of their policy, whereas it's just as and when vacancies arrive in the UK, or in London, where I worked. So yeah, I mean, that's just giving an example of what the process is and how long it can take for a certain job, so that's my job. Other jobs, if you want to go into retail, maybe you're interested in management, but you can start at the bottom. You'll get that quicker, hopefully, within weeks or even a week. It depends on the employer, doesn't it, really, And a lot of it's online now, but there's the actual, model of working in McDonald's or working in, in a store, it's gone online. So it's more like the delivery driver or the food delivery person is more like the person serving the food now, because they're going to your door serving it or bringing your goods to the door. So it's almost like you're that customer service now is the deliverer.
That's
the model
analogy.
That's changing now, isn't it?
It's so in flux that in the field that I'm in, leadership, COVID has just brought an exponential series of changes that weren't anticipated for 10, 15, 20 years. So the good news about that is there's a moment and an opportunity for everyone, not just employers, but job seekers, to reshape the playing field, make it more fair, make it more open. Ultimately, what we talk about in the book is be yourself, know yourself, share yourself, and that will benefit our world most.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, okay. Well, that's number 4 anyway. Was discussing. Obviously, we had a little bit of a lengthy one with that one. So let's go at number 5, and then we'll look at how we can consolidate and implement this these processes the steps that you're talking about.
The 5th thing to do, and it's not really always the last thing. It happens throughout the process. Is always be in the process of reflecting on what you're learning. So as you identify feelings and needs, take note of that. Even take 5-10 minutes a week to reflect on what's emerging from your process. What are you noticing? What does this mean in terms of next steps you're going to take? So really always being open to being surprised by yourself, being surprised by what you learn, and being in a real reflective, considered, thoughtful process with yourself so that you're applying what you're learning. For example, you may learn certain things about the skills that you have that cause you to edit your resume. The top of your resume, for example, in a job search is really critical. Most people take 5 to 10 seconds to review a resume. So you want to catch them at the top. And one of the best ways to do that is to really know yourself. When you're in a reflective process, it's much easier to discern the words that really describe who you are, what you've done, and what you seek to do.
Yeah. No worries about that. So, yeah, fantastic. So let's look at maybe give a kind of scenario in the real wild world, but look at implementing, putting it all together and implementing it. So someone's now taken these 5 steps, who's listening to this now. So you put a picture in their mind what they can now do practically in the world of job searching post-pandemic. Well, I'll just say post-pandemic. I know it's always really going to be with us, COVID, but we are in a post-pandemic phase now where vaccinations are coming through and things are now trying to get back to business, aren't they? So let's talk about it like that.
Yes, and so
how do we put these?
Once you've done all this, and by the way, this could take 5 minutes or 5 days or 5 months. It depends upon your pace and what emerges for you. But once you've done this, you're really ready to set up your job search structure. So how many hours does it work for you a day to really focus on this? We've noted that surprisingly for most people, it's less than they think. Usually a couple of hours a day or something like 10 to 15 hours a week usually is enough, particularly at the beginning of your search. So set up a structure where you have a menu of tasks each day, or if you focus 2 or 3 days a week for those 2 or 3 days. So then when you sit down, you're not overwhelmed. You can pick and discern, okay, this day I'm going to spend 20 minutes editing my resume, or this day I'm going to spend an hour on my cover letter. Or you know what, I'm going to spend a couple of hours this week on community building, which is the term we use instead of networking. Community building is about really growing your community, sharing what you're excited to offer, learning where you can impact. So it's really setting up a schedule for yourself and then sticking with it. Not always easy, especially if you don't hear back from jobs. Ghosting during the recruitment process is now the norm. And so many people, even after 2 or 3 interviews, never hear back. You know, we're still human beings. That can hurt. And so you want to acknowledge that, but also not let it hold you back. And so maintaining that momentum with a daily or weekly schedule is key. And making sure you get to your written materials, your interviewing prep, your community building, or what's often known as networking, making sure you build your skill in making the decision about a job. It's not always easy, right? Especially now in the Great Resignation, I'm coaching people that are getting 2, 3 offers at times. Oh no, it's a great problem to have, but how do you decide? So in the book, we talk about contacting your inner wisdom, discerning how to make those decisions. And we even prepare people for being in the job, because all the skills that we talk about, these 5 steps, are fantastic ways to build your leadership and management on the job, hit the ground running, and make a great impression and really share what you have to share.
Yeah. Well, I'll say in your book description, this is on the Amazon, but I'm sure it's the same blurb for most of your sites that you're promoting the book on. But you draw on positive psychology, Buddhist principles, and nonviolent communication. Explain what you mean by that. I mean, I know what positive psychology, but you could probably just explain all of those.
I would love
things
to. So positive psychology, which has been around for some decades, really is rooted in the notion that human beings do best when they focus on their strengths rather than their challenges. It doesn't mean you don't acknowledge challenges, but it means you put your attention on what's really working. So throughout the book, we show the readers how to do that when you're creating your resume, writing cover letters, even setting up your search, dealing with who you really are, not who you maybe wish you were, and then sharing that. So that's positive psychology. Buddhist principles are some of the most amazing that exist, in my opinion. And a lot of what we draw on with that is, first of all, the notion of self-connection being foremost, mindset being sort of the soil in which a great job search is planted. And in Buddhism, mindset is everything, right? So it has to do with really getting in command of yourself. We recommend having a morning ritual, for example, to set your job search compass every day. Another key piece in Buddhism is something called the second arrow. The second arrow is, for example, not hearing back from a job, which is hard. That's the first arrow. And then telling yourself a story about yourself that there's something very wrong with you. That is the second arrow. So that makes things worse. So in Buddhism, you disrupt the second arrow so that you're able to move forward more effectively. And then lastly, nonviolent communication, or NVC, as it's often known, it's an incredibly powerful modality that focuses on the value of feelings and needs, which we've talked about in some depth, and really about staying connected to yourself while you do with others. So as you're focusing on what you need in the job search, you also want to zero in on what does the world need? And then what is the marriage of your own needs and goals with your strengths, with what's needed in the world? So it's that very sort of double consciousness of consideration for yourself and the world. We name this in the book the virtuous cycle. So the virtuous cycle is being aware of your own feelings and needs and goals in the search, and that of the people you're community building or networking with and potential employers. When you do that, it's almost like you exponentialize what you can co-create together because you're aware of both yourself and others in a much deeper way. And it really speeds up the search, and it also makes it, dare I say, a little bit fun because it takes the focus off like, oh my gosh, I need a job, which can feel very vulnerable, and like, oh wow, I have things to share. What does the world need? How do I connect with the world more deeply and myself?
Yeah. Wow. Well, that's great. Well, I can see that, you've put a good way you structured the book in a good way, and also put a summary, a one-line summary for each chapter. So I'm sure people can delve into that and have a look. It's really taking them on a journey, or let's see what it says here. It walks you through every step of the job process.
Yes. We really break it down to make it simpler, easier, less anxiety provoking. Our goal is, to empower people so that they can feel like they're in command of the search and that it's an opportunity for transformation for them rather than a dreaded to do.
Yeah, excellent. Well, hopefully, where can our listeners find out more about this book or to purchase it, and also more about your work, your coaching work and everything, should they want to look more into that?
Yes, thank you so much. So the book is on theempoweredjobsearch.com. And there's all kinds of information. It can be purchased on Amazon and many other sites. My website is Cathy with a C, Wasserman.com, and I do coaching every day. I work with individuals and organizations cross-sectorally around the world. And I love what I do. It's a true privilege to support people in being themselves and sharing themselves and achieving their goals.
Excellent. That's great stuff. Well, it's obviously well needed in what's going on now in the world, as we mentioned at the beginning, as I've outlined. So I'm sure people will get some good value, and hopefully got some good value with our conversation today. So Cathy, just like to say thanks very much for coming and sharing this. I'm sure there might be a journey later on in this new post-pandemic world where we might have you on again, with how everything's sort of shaping in this new world of the job search and business world, and even the way people would live their lives, really. So
absolutely. Thank you so much for the opportunity. It was a true delight.
That's all for this episode. Thanks for listening, and remember, if you want to support what we do, then share, subscribe, and leave a review over on Apple Podcasts, or head over to my website davepalmer.com and click on Rate Show. Well, that's all for now, but I'll see you in the next episode of The Dave Palmer Show.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.